You either have a cruelty-free or a cruelty-based diet. We don't phrase it like that. And the reason we don't is that there's two types of violence. There is hot and cold violence. Hot is when you feel it, you see it, it's emotional, it's upsetting. That was 9/11, the Virginia Tech massacres. That gets to us. And then you have cold, out of sight, unseen, unreported violence. That's those 12 million animals a day killed for food. That's on the sheet of paper right there. You take a look at the bottom. You see the quote by Oscar Arias, a Nobel Peace Prize winner from Costa Rica, who said, right down the fourth or fifth line, 3 billion people live in tragic poverty, and 40,000 children die each day from diseases that could be prevented. When was the last time you saw a newspaper headline that said 40,000 people died yesterday of preventable diseases? You ever hear Larry King talk about that one on the Sunday morning talk shows? Oh, we're telling you all about Lady Gaga and whether Nancy Pelosi is going to make it to another term. Don't tell you about this, because that's cold, out of sight, unseen, unfelt violence. But yet it goes on. So that too is a part of peace education. And I admire those people who dig in and go after the issues, no matter how you want to be a peacemaker. There's hundreds of ways to go about it. But it almost always begins with our own lives. On the lower left-hand corner, you'll see a quote by Jim Douglas, one of our great peacemakers. The first things to be disrupted by our commitment to non-violence will not be the system, but our own lives. And how do you go about doing that? Live simply so others may simply live. Was one of the great lines. I think Mother Teresa used that one a lot. Simple living. And how do you embrace simple living? Figure out the difference between what you need and what you want. We raise children in our society to want things. Advertising, get this, buy that. Consumerism. The peacemakers say the opposite. Consume less, share more. That too is basic to peacemaking. Figure out the difference between what you need and what you want. And don't support those companies or services or corporations that are lying to us. Buy this, you'll be happy. They're clearly lying to us. So if you live simply, you will do a lot toward making this planet a more peaceful place where the goods of the world are shared. Gandhi always said, there are enough resources on this planet for everybody's need, but not enough for everybody's greed. And here you have the United States. In this book right here, we have a wonderful essay by Martin Luther King, and he gave a great talk in April 4th, 1967. And he said, a nation continues year after year to spend more money on military programs than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. You don't hear that quote often. In the media, we just give you the safe, sanitized king, the I have a dream speech king. That's the tame king. This is the angry king, justifiably angry. When the nation spends more money on killing than on healing, his collective soul is long dead. He criticized the United States. He said, the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today is my own government. The U.S. government, he said, is the world's most violent. It's either right or wrong, take your choice. The figures, the facts back them up. The current military budget is $878 billion. That's security and military. That number's too large to grasp unless you are an astronomer. Got to break it down. Comes down to 2.5 billion a day. That's still too high. And that, by the way, is about 8 times more than what the Peace Corps gets in a year. Peace Corps budget is about $400 million. The Pentagon spends 2.5 in a day. Still got to break it down some more. It comes down to about $28,000 a second. That's the military budget given to the military by the Congress. Keep in mind, I never blame people in the military for the problems, for the war making. They're just hired to do it. They do the dirty work. Who are the ones that are allowed to go on? Well, all of us. It's our tax money. That's why I do admire the tax resistors, the conscientious tax resistors. You can pray for peace, you can march for peace, you can teach it, but all too often your tax money goes to making war. Somebody's got to pay for it. Half of all federal taxes and discretionary funding goes to the military. And Congress gives it to them. Obama is a war president, just one of many. They've all been war presidents. All presidents believe in solving their conflicts with violence. Obama is no different than the others. He said, and he hasn't been fooling us. It's not as though he was hiding this. He said when he was running for president, I'm not opposed to all wars. I'm only opposed to dumb wars. And he concluded that Afghanistan evidently was a smart war. He's called it a necessary war. So we're bankrupting our economy. That's why we're in decline. And I hope we continue to be in decline and wake up and realize that we don't have these special privileges to waste our money. Other governments aren't doing that. Why this one? And we're obsessed with domination. And the world doesn't like it. And you end up with 9/11s and you end up with roadside bombs. So what's the solution? Well, there are lots of them. I think peace education, for one, that's the long-term solution. What's the near-term solution? There's an old saying in conflict resolution: if you want to create the conditions of peace, don't talk to your friends, talk to your enemies. Why didn't Bush and Wolfowitz and Cheney and Rumsfeld and Rice and Powell, after 9/11, get on an airplane and go to Kabul, go to Baghdad, and tell bin Laden, we want to talk to you. You clearly have a grievance. Most people say, oh my God, you're losing it now. You can't talk to evil people. They're beyond talking to. We heard the same argument in the early 1970s when Richard Nixon, who spent most of his political life demonizing the godless atheist Chinese communist, what did he finally do? He went to China and he talked with them. And they negotiated, they compromised, reconciled, and now China is trading with us. Not only trading, they're loaning us money. They must wake up every morning laughing. We commies are going to save the capitalists from their own excesses. Reagan, 1986, in Orlando, Florida, gave a talk and said the Soviet Union is the evil empire. What did he do the next year? Went to talk to the evil people. And now they're allies. So compared to China and Russia, bin Laden riding around on donkeys, living in a cave, is a mosquito. Go talk to him. But don't kill women and children, as we are doing in Afghanistan. Repeatedly, we bomb civilians, and we will keep doing it. Another fruitless war, so similar to Vietnam. There's about 10 or 15 reasons why they're similar wars. So that is what we're hoping to do with peace education. By the way, and we'll take a few questions and answers now, Jan, if we have time. On the upper right-hand corner, see the 2 little bears? Everybody gets a free hug today. You cut that out and redeem it for a free hug. And then you copy it, you have a lifetime of free hugs. If you have a good copying machine. So those are a few, I don't want to talk the whole time, but if you have any questions of disagreement or dissent, we could take a few of those now if you have any comments or any observations.
So I do.
Yes, and then what?
Take Steve first.
Yeah, tell me your name.
Mark.
Good, Mark.
So short of devoting your entire career to like going to somewhere, like I'm looking at this Oscar Sanchez quote. What is something that a person can do in their everyday life to combat something like cold violence?
Oh, today, tell someone you love them. And if you can't find someone to tell them that you love them, look a little harder. And if you still can't find them, call me up. I know where a lot of unloved people. They're all over the place. And then figure out what you want to learn about how to be a peacemaker. We talked before about grading and homework. I think grades, homework, tests are all forms of academic violence. Everybody liked that little theory. Now we're getting somewhere. There's two ways to learn. You either learn by fear or you learn by desire. We teach people by fear. That's what homework represents. And we start you off real early in elementary school. Leave no child untested. That was Bush's grade. The sea stew from Andover. You can't learn by fear. You only learn by desire. That's why happily I teach two classes here at the university. One, they did ask me to give exam. I hate it. At the other class, I teach alternatives to violence. We have no exam. You have just one paper due. It's a very relaxed class. It's a pass-fail class. That's the way it ought to be. I've never failed anybody. It's very difficult to fail my class. You have to make a lot of bodily noises in class. You have to sleep on the floor. We have to jump over you, and you have to yawn a lot. And they put so much effort into failing that I'm passing for their effort. So it's you learn by desire. That's how we're wired to learn. And we learn how to play the game. Let me ask everybody here, if you would, you can take the Fifth Amendment on this one. Think back to all the years you were in school. How many can raise your hand and say, with absolute honesty, tell everybody else in our little room here, I've never ever cheated in school? Hands up, please. One hand goes up. All right, tell us your name and let me hear you say it.
My name is Luciana, and I've never cheated in school.
Give it a nice round of applause. We have All right, second question, who has cheated? Hands up. This is the good American way, yes. The Lehman Brothers may be hiring again someday, tell them. I learned how to cheat in college, yes, hire me. So there we do it. And why do we cheat? Fear. I better get that good grade, something bad might happen to me. You ever read Socrates on education? Never talked about grades, testing, and homework. Did you ever read Maria Montessori, the great Italian medical doctor who opened up the Montessori school system in 1907? Never talked about grades, testing, or homework. Rudolf Steiner, the founder of Waldorf schools, a great educator. So what do we know that Socrates and Montessori and Steiner didn't know? I think they knew a lot more than we do. But yet, we are in this system now, the testing mania. That's why teachers are so demoralized. It's the worst thing to do is grading people. I absolutely hate it. But you have to compromise. The people wouldn't come to school if they didn't know they're going to get a diploma and get the grade point average. That's one reform we've all got to work on. But having pass-fail courses, I think, helps out a little bit.